Hello viewers, and a very warm welcome to another episode, a restoration video today on one of my favourite computer brands from the noughties, the Sony VAIO. For those of you who don't know what VAIO stands for, it's Video Audio Integrated Operations, and not violet, which was one of their primary colours that their early computers used to come in, along with like a greyish colour, grey-blue colour. The Sony VAIO brand came out in the late 90s here in England, and it was a little bit earlier in Japan. My first experience with the VAIO was around about 1999 to the 2000 period, when I started working in a Sony centre. I was quite a late bloomer when it came into the PC world. In fact, I didn't get my first PC till around 1998-99. I think that was one of my brother's hand-me-downs. The Sony VAIOs were completely out of my price range back in that time period, even into the teens of the 2000s. But ever since Sony stopped making computers, unfortunately, I've started collecting them. I've been revisiting some of the earlier ones, which seem to be my favourite for some reason, and probably because I remember them when they first came out and how expensive they were. So today we're going to be having a look at this model here. This is the T range. I think this came out around about 2004-2005 time. There's quite a few models that came after this. This one here is the VGN-T1XP. It's quite a small machine. I actually bought the computer itself off of eBay on its own. It's a little bit beat up. It's got no hard drive in it. It's only got 512 megabytes of memory, which is what it was shipped with at the time. I managed to find the box for it separately in a separate listing quite soon after I bought the computer, but I didn't buy it for the box. I actually bought it for the restore discs. Now, if you're like me and you've bought a second-hand VAIO before, you'll know what an absolute nightmare it is trying to get hold of the system restore discs. Unfortunately, Sony stopped supporting the Sony VAIO now, and they've removed all the drivers and restore disk and pretty much all the information from their website, certainly here in England anyway, in the European site. And obviously if you are looking at other sites like Japan and America, their models did vary. And Sony being Sony, their restore disks are very particular to which series of computer they work with. So obviously I bought the box. I think I paid equally the same amount for the actual box and the restore discs as I did the computer itself. Fingers crossed, when I come to restore this, the restore disc will actually work, because there are actually backup versions, the ones that you had to make yourself. In the early days of the Sony VAIO, they would actually ship with a restore disc, but for some reason they stopped doing that, and you had the option basically to select there's a piece of software built in that will allow you to, or remind you to, make a backup of the hard drive basically. And in some instances the restore partition was actually hidden on the computer, and you could press a combination of the keys. I think it was F8 or maybe F2, may even be F10 on some models, and that would allow you to access that hidden partition and restore the disk from the hard drive. But of course, if you ever had a catastrophic failure of the hard drive, you would need to replace the hard drive and you would need those disks. So hopefully they'll work. But one of the other things I have noticed with this computer, the ribbon cables, which I'll show you some close-ups of in a bit, they've become a little bit fragile, and the one that operates the power switch for the power LED and the power switch itself has become that creased that it's not quite making contact, so that's going to need looking at. So with all that said, I'll open this box up now and have a look at the computer and take a look inside. Okay, so let's have a look at the box. This one's in quite good condition actually. It's got a bit of a dent on the top there. Apart from that, it's okay. Let's have a look at the specs quickly. So it's an Intel Pentium M processor, ultra low voltage, 733, 1.1 gigahertz, 10.6 inch WXGA screen, a resolution of 1280 by 768, X Black LCD, 512 megabytes of DDR SD RAM, PC 2700 DDR 333, 40 gigabyte hard disk drive, which is not one inside of it. I've had to buy a replacement. It's got an Intel 855 GME integrated graphics chip and 64 megabytes of memory, DVD plus RW drive, wireless LAN. I'm surprised it's got wireless in actually, so that's good. Bluetooth technology. That's the specs. It says it's got Synaptic North Internet Security built in, so that'll be well out of date now if it's even on the restore disk. The serial number on the box is quite close actually to the actual computer I bought. and it's actually blue as well, so that was lucky, because I think they did it in either black or silver as well, if I remember rightly. Right, let's have a look inside. And we've got the modem cable there, which I definitely won't be using for dial-up. Power supply, that's a 16 volt VGP AC 16B8. There's all the bump that comes with it and the instruction manuals. Sony Corporation Microsoft Works product ID there. Obviously a lot of this stuff started coming on a CD-ROM at some point. I mean, I think they went back to manuals, but these were in all the different languages by the looks of it. I always used to think they used to waste a lot of paper showing all the different manuals. And here's the all-important recovery discs. VGN-T1XP recovery DVD 1 of 2. 2 of 2, and then someone's done a wireless driver there, Windows XP Service Pack 3. So these have been made by the person that owned it before, so like I said, hopefully they're alright. If they don't work, then I guess I'll have to resort to using my Windows XP disc and do a hunt for the drivers, which hopefully I won't have to. So I've already got it in bits. I've kept all the screws there safe. So I bought this quite a long time ago now, and I kind of forgot about it, and then camera clear out, found it again. There's the battery for it. So yeah, VGP BPS3, 7200 milliamp, 7.4 volts. And the computer itself. There we go, it's a nice dark blue. Unfortunately it's got a bit of a ding there in the top. Like I said, I've already started taking it apart just to check the insides out of it first, just to make sure this video is going to be worth doing. I don't want to waste anybody's time. It's missing the little rubber feet, but if you have a VAIO or any of the old ones, you'll know that these start to perish over time. They turn into this horrible sticky mess that gets just about everywhere, so I shall replace those 6 feet. Interestingly, it's actually got the DVD drive built in. On the earlier ones they were external, but somehow they've managed to squeeze all of that inside of there, and the computer's down on that side. And here it is. Like I said before, it's quite a small machine actually, and it's probably quite hard to judge just how big it is on camera. So here's a CD-ROM to show you the size, and up against the screen as well. It's very light as well, which is nice. Certainly a very portable machine. Obviously if you were travelling a lot as well, you could play a DVD back in it, which would be handy. So let's have a look inside. Let's pop the top off. Already disconnected everything, and here we are. So you can see there's not an actual lot in there. The DVD-ROM tray there takes up most of the space, and that's where the hard drive goes. That's the caddy for it. The little rubber feet have been, or rubber edges have been stuck in there by a bit of tape by whoever owned it before. Managed to get hold of a hard drive for it, a new old stock Toshiba. It's an MK400 6JAH. It's a 40GB one, which is what the actual computer was shipped with. So hopefully that's okay, so I've had that now probably nearly a year, and it's still sealed. The memory for this is quite an unusual size. Sony being Sony, with their proprietary memory, like their Sony memory sticks, has even gone and done the same thing with this, which is very similar actually to what Toshiba did with their tiny little laptops they did years ago, the CT range, which I have a few of those. And they took an unusual type memory as well. That's a normal size memory you would find in a laptop, or even a desktop, or some of the desktops these days have this size, depending on the brand obviously, and there's no way that's going to fit in there. Now I thought I'll have a quick look on eBay to see if I can find some memory for it. I thought I'm never going to find it. I did find it on eBay, looking, but people are wanting like nearly £100 for a memory card for it. I thought, God, that's a lot of money. I thought I'm not paying that for that, for 512 megabytes of memory. So I typed the model number in, I typed the spec in of the RAM on its own, without the model number, and I managed to find somebody selling it. I couldn't believe it. Very lucky, and here it is. I'll give you a size comparison. Show the difference on camera there. I'll do a close up actually. But you can see the size difference. Very unusual. That's 512 megabytes on there, and I think I only paid about £3 for it and £1.50 postage. I couldn't believe my luck. It's even got the Sony branding on it, so it is for the Sony machine. I don't think anybody else actually made it. I think it's Infineon as the brand, the actual IC's on there. So it has to go in a particular way. It's got a little picture there of how it goes on. So I may as well pop that in now actually. There we go. So that's in place. I have already tested the RAM actually. It does work, I'm glad to say. It showed up in the BIOS as another 512 megabytes. So I suppose the next thing to do will be to get that hard drive in there and get the computer restored. Let me just show you that problem I found with one of the ribbons. It's this one here. I'll do a close-up of that. Basically it pops into that little hole there. Let me just zoom in. It's that little socket there basically, and the ribbon that's it underneath goes all the way across there to the power switch. Now it's actually become brittle, and because it's been bent so many times, I think this has been taken apart quite a few times. These ribbon cables aren't very forgiving, and it's basically broken. The only thing holding it together is the white tape itself. So what I'm hoping to do is cut it, remove some of the plastic off of the actual terminals, and then pop it in. Now these do have a tiny little, if I can find it, there it is, a little blue plastic, little stiff piece of plastic. Show it up on camera. And that goes in next to the ribbon cable into the socket to make contact basically. They've come away as well on two of them. So this could be a bit of a hit and miss, but fingers crossed we'll be alright and it'll actually work. So what we'll do next then, we'll get that hard drive in place. Memory's in now. And we'll get the top back assembled and have a look at that ribbon cable. Okay, let's get that hard drive caddy out and get that new hard drive in place. I think that's been in there quite a while. So that'll go on there. Guessing these go on the corners. I see now. Make sure I'm not crushing any wires. I think those two screws, that one will be there. That one will be for that there, so that will screw in from underneath. Yes, it goes up from underneath. It's a bit raised on one side though, something not quite right there. I think it'll be fine once it's screwed down. Right then, let's put the top on. I wonder whether to just try that cable as it is. And you know, you can see the break in it. You know what, I'm going to cut it. Let's do that next. So the hard drive's in place. Let's have a look at this cable. See, it's done now. It is done. Let's get a scalpel and just scrape away some of that plastic. off the tape slightly. Very fiddly. The only other time I've done something like this is on a ZX81, Sinclair ZX81, because those ribbon cables are notorious. It's certainly a job not for the faint-hearted. Let me just about see that on the camera. I managed to just get a little bit of the plastic off and make a clean area for the connector to get contacts. There's only about 6 pads there, because one's for the power LED and one lot for the power switch. So we'll plug that in now and try it, and then I need to get that little piece of blue plastic in next to it to push it up against the contacts. So we'll do that next and just see how we go. So that's the PCMCIA connector. Then you've got the key mouse, which is that one, and then that one there is the DVD playing buttons, skip, backwards and forward, stop. There's the lights one. Oh, I see. That's probably for the LEDs as well, because it goes across underneath there. That one there's for the LEDs. Across the top, to let you know what it's doing. Right. Okay, the keyboards are wired back in. All the ribbon cables are connected. Let's plug some power into it, shall we, and see if it comes on with that little ribbon mod that I did. So let's see, fingers crossed. Plus then for a second. Green lights flashing. Okay, some of you may have noticed, which I didn't notice stupidly, that I had the hard drive in back to front. How I didn't notice that, I do not know, because there was actually a lug on that little ribbon cable. One's oval shaped and one's circle, and somehow I managed to get it around the wrong way. And obviously the proof was there as well with the caddy, because it was sticking up on one side. But these things happen, don't they? The eagerness to see this thing working. But it's still working, thank goodness. I've reconnected it all. So the next thing to do is to power it up and see if we can get a restore disc working. Let's turn it on. We've got both lights now as well, which we didn't have before. And I think only one worked. So shaving that ribbon cable off certainly has worked. Let's see if the disc works now. A bit dusty. So I'll reboot it. I may have to go into the BIOS and change it actually to look for DVD-ROM as a first boot. Let's see what happens. Hear the disc spinning. Is it going to work? Operating system not found. That's not what I wanted to see. I wonder why that's not working. I wonder if I should go into the BIOS just to make sure it needs to boot from there first, from the CD-ROM. Let's have a look at that. So the memory's showing up anyway. Let's just go to booting. The optical optical drive. Oh, it's hard disk is on there first, that's probably why then. Change volumes, F9. I would have thought the optical being at the top would have done it, but it's got a little asterisk next to the hard drive. Enter commands, collapses device, can't enter. I wonder if the discs have been labelled wrong. There's always a possibility of hope. There seemed to be quite a lot on that on that second disc. Let's try it one more time. Operating system not found. Let's try disc 2, just in case they've labelled them wrong when they made them. You never know, because I don't know if you can see that on camera. There's quite a lot less on that one than there is on the disc 2. This says DVD. Fingers crossed, let's have a look. You never know, they might have labelled the disc wrong. Oh, here we go. I was right. They labelled the disc wrong. Wow, how about that, eh? Startup via system recovery utility, powered by Windows. Excellent. Talk about lucky, because as I said at the beginning of the video, trying to find restore disks for these old BIOS is an absolute nightmare. Even more so for the later ones, because as I say, you had to make them yourself. The early ones actually came with the disc. So I'll probably time lapse through this. We'll get this set up now then. Disc 2 must be the applications, that's why there's a bit less on it. And we'll see how we get on. Well, unfortunately I had to abort the installation of that Windows Restore disk for the Windows XP installation. Disc 1 worked absolutely fine. Once I realised that the previous owner labelled them up wrong, but disc 2 wouldn't work at all. It would start reading it, then after a short while it would just eject itself and say, please reinsert disk. I tried this numerous times and it just wouldn't work. I tried cleaning the disk, got quite frustrating in the end actually. In fact, it's actually a few months later now since I actually recorded that first segment. I must apologise by the way for the first part being slightly out of focus, something I didn't notice until editing. So I've gone with Windows 7 now, which is my last favourite series of Windows as an operating system. It's a real shame those original discs wouldn't work. I tried reading them in a computer, worked absolutely fine reading them. I even backed up the second disc, burnt another disc, and it still wouldn't work in this. So I guess the files must have got corrupted somewhere along the way on the original making of them. So I've got Windows 7 here. You can pretty much guarantee every time Windows 7 will put in all the drivers that you need. On this occasion though, just a graphics driver, it's just a default one. It's not found the correct drivers for that. I've not found them myself either online. I've typed in the model number, it's an Intel 855GSE I think it was. I typed that in. I found some drivers for it, but they again didn't work properly. In fact, I even got the blue screen of death on one set of drivers, so quickly uninstalled those and had to do a system restore already. So I guess that just about brings me to the end of this video. One thing I will say, if you're thinking of buying a second-hand VAIO, try and buy one with the original restore discs, because like I said at the beginning, trying to find the discs after the fact, or trying to find drivers, is an absolute nightmare. But failing that, you've always got Windows 7 as a fallback, and to be quite honest with you, Windows 7 is quite a good system, and at the moment there's still updates as of June 2022, but obviously they are shortly due to stop. So I guess that just leaves me to say, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll be seeing you.